Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to try talking a little bit about some of my false twin related experiences. And the reason I want to talk about the false twin relationship is because sometimes people can have uh, confusion dynamics with their false twins that resonates a lot with a twin flame experience, and because some false twins can be sent in our lives to help us grow a lot more than others, it is possible that when we are having this false twin relationship, we may start getting confused about whether this is a twin flame relationship or a false twin relationship, especially if we are in the beginning stages of our journey. And false twin relationships can be as intense and deeply moving as a twin flame relationship also could possibly be. So, for me, the way my life journey was with my romantic relationships, the false twin relationship was a very powerful relationship. I feel the way it transpired that from my end, from my perspective, he was my false twin as well as a soulmate kind of a relationship. Whereas for his perspective, I was a false twin in the past for him, and now possibly after like almost um, 20 years have passed since we have dated each other. He is also going through some things that I am aware of because of the spiritual guidance that I get about his life. And from that guidance, I feel he's in a catalyst phase right now. So I have become a catalyst for him, even though I am not actually in his life presently, either as a friend or as a life partner. So we haven't really spoken to each other in a while. The last time I spoke was a few years back. And even though I spoke, he was still in that negative paradigm with me in our communication, which basically just confirmed again for me that he is not my twin flame, even though at the soul level, there is a deeper connection and understanding of him as a soul from my end. But whenever in the physical reality I communicate with him, I always get the impression that he doesn't have that same level of respect or for me at the 3D level. Though at the soul level, I do know that in the soul level, we are obviously connected to each other in a different manner. So, this part also, I will try to explain why I'm saying this statement that I made right now. It will confuse many. So, right now, that's a matter for another video, something to do with multidimensionality as well, which I will try to address in a different video. But let's go. I'm going to go back in the past, like in 20 years back when I was dating him, and why the relationship seemed like a twin flame relationship to me back then. So, 20 years back, when I was dating this person, he was my first boyfriend. Consciously, for me, he was my first boyfriend. Though there's another story here as well, which I'll tell later in another video. But so, for me, from my perspective, when I was in my early 20s, I met this guy with whom I was very intensely attracted towards. He was extremely handsome, he was extremely powerful energetically, and he made my heart like soar up, and I felt like really alive when I was with him. So all these parameters made me like completely fall in love with him, and he was also likewise attracted to me, and he also likely fell in love, but he was so scared of the whole relationship, or he was possibly not so sure about the relationship as much as I was sure about it. So, because of that reason, he never actually said, I love you to me, though he cared for me deeply. And his way of being with me is the way he started to say that since I'm with you, that means I care for you. Since I'm with you, that means I love you. But he didn't use the word love. So he was like that. he couldn't express his love. In fact, in the first few months of our dating, we got Valentine's Day happening immediately after the first few months that we dated. And during Valentine's Day, he gives me a card which had all the tick marks of what you would give like to a friend possibly on a Valentine's Day. And I was okay with it because it was the first Valentine's Day, and I didn't really, though I was slightly disappointed because when I gave him a card, it had all the beautiful lovey dovey things in it, whereas his card was like a friendship kind of a card. So I was partly disappointed. But I took it in my stride that it's okay. He gave me, he couldn't express his feelings. So I didn't quite ignore it, but I didn't like, let it bother me. But even though I didn't let it bother me, after a few weeks, he shows me another card. And in that card, he had written, it had all the beautiful love points in it. Like it was a card that someone would give to their potential person whom they fall in love with. So it was very beautifully written, so amazing. I was like, is he like trying to surprise me by giving me a better card in a few weeks' time? Because I was very delighted reading that card. But while I was getting delighted reading the card, this guy had something going on in his life. I don't know what, because he was never a very expressive kind, and only via universe's guidances over the years I finally figured out what was going on with him. Because while we were together, very few glimpses of what was going on with him I got from his behavior with me. But most of the understanding that I got about him came to me after I stopped dating him. So while I was dating, he gave me this card. He showed this beautiful card, and which was a few weeks after Valentine's Day had passed. And then he tells me, this is a card I want to give to the woman of my dreams, but when I feel like that, until I feel like that, I don't wish to give this card to anyone. And at the time, I got completely like annoyed and pissed off at him, because I'm like, yeah, it's possible that someone could possibly, not feel as deeply for another. Like when two people are in a relationship, it is not necessary that if I am feeling intense emotional attachment towards this guy, that he will also feel the same level of intense emotional attachment towards me. I knew physically we were intensely attracted towards each other, but emotionally I could tell that he was not as emotionally attracted towards me, even in the beginning few weeks of our or months of our relationship. So that part I could figure out, but because I was young, because I was insecure, because I also felt like I'm not as beautiful as him in looks, and he's much more beautiful than me in looks. I also felt I was not as intellectually also to his level, and he was much more intellectual than me. So because of all these reasons, I had my insecurities, and because I had my insecurities, I let many things slide in this relationship, which if you are a confident person, if you are more secure person, if you value yourself more, you will not let those things slide. And that is what the twin flame journey, or that is what the journey of being a divine feminine energy is about. You have to be sure about yourself. You have to become secure about yourself. You have to become independent. You have to be less codependent. You have to be, you have to let some of these insecurities not play out all the time in your life and ruin your dynamics with others, things like that. And you have to understand and know how to set good boundaries, healthy boundaries, build healthy relationships with another human being with whom you want to do something. Because when you are a twin flame, you have to do something, and you are here to do something in the world, either together as life partners, and if for some twin flames, if they aren't going to be life partners, they're at least going to be together as some kind of colleagues working together to create something beautiful and meaningful that will help the world. Because every twin flame couple has a life purpose and a soul purpose that they will understand eventually, once they have healed, once they have done the inner work, once they have understood themselves, once they have developed the capacity to understand another, once they've developed the capacity to understand the world, then only you can do something to help the world. Otherwise, how are you going to do something that will create some meaningful change in the world. So that is what a twin flame journey is about. So my twin flame journey started this 20 plus years back. But though the twin flame journey started 20 plus years back, at that time it didn't start from my perspective with my twin flame. Though it turns out that I had actually met my twin flame even before I met this first boyfriend. So, and that is another story for another time, because some of the twin flame related stories I will have to wait to talk about when my twin flame is ready, so that he can give his perspective about how he went through the whole journey. Because from my end, what happened, though I met my twin flame a long time back, in fact I possibly met him during childhood days, he was a side character in my life because I met him very rarely. I didn't meet him as often. In the 3D world, I was not interacting with my twin flame for a long time. But apparently, in the 5D, I might have been interacting with him, because now I'm realizing my twin flame knows a lot more about me and my journey, and about things that I experienced for the last 20 years of my life, that even my family doesn't know about, that even my close friends don't know about, that even my cousins don't know about. Like, there are a few handful of people who know deeply about some of my life history. And this twin flame person, who I became aware about only in recent years, has known about me and my life journey for a long time, because he had access either to my Akashic records, or he had access via his sixth sense and other intuitive twin flame abilities, which gave him the insights necessary to know about me without us even interacting with each other on the 3D much in our adult years. And likewise for me, that is what has happened. But no, with my twin flame, that experience is only recently coming up. Whereas with my false twin, that experience has been going on for, like, I stopped dating him about 18 years back or 17 years back. But even then, because this false twin was such a important person in my life, because he changed me in a lot of ways. And because of that reason, many things that I went through and I asked questions about and I tried to resolve, like, why am I feeling so deeply about this false twin, whereas the false twin is not feeling as deeply for me. These kind of questions I kept asking the universe. I had to, like, after I stopped dating my false twin, I had to, like, really go through a intense phase of, heartache, heartbreak, um, grief, because it was not easy. In my mind, I had considered him like my husband. Like, how Radha and Krishna are taught to be the same soul, and how Radha Krishna had this bond with each other, where even though they never married each other, even though they never slept with each other, they're each other's soulmate twin flame relationship, right? I felt like that with this guy, and I didn't even feel like Radha with my false twin. I felt he was like he was like Kanha, but I was like Meera in this relationship, where I would be always devoted to this Kanha, but I know that Kanha and me are not supposed to be together. This is what I eventually realized over the years as I developed more and more deeper understanding about the dynamics between me and my false twin. So, but while I was going through the false twin relationship, did I think about these concepts about being a Radha or a Meera? Not exactly. When I was going through a difficult first relationship with a boyfriend, what I was learning at that time was how to deal with 3D relationship issues. And the 3D relationship issues were related to things like this, like if you have a smarter boyfriend, hotter boyfriend, a boyfriend that many other women would gladly date and think themselves lucky to date. Whereas here you're dating this guy and realizing that even though there are many women who are also desiring him at the same time, you're not able to find the peace and love and joy that such a relationship should bring in your life. And why wasn't I able to do that? because though there was intense connection, though we missed each other, though we loved each other, though even though we will break off for a few months or a few weeks and not meet each other for a while, and then when we would get back together, we would have that same joy and happiness initially when we were getting back together with each other. ये सब चल रहा था like a normal relationship. You would twin flame का भी what people say, the push pull that is happening in a twin flame. You break off and you think and contemplate and change yourself and then get back together. That kind of thing started happening with this guy for a long time. But what was the difference between a false twin push pull and a twin flame push pull? I believe that in a twin flame push pull, because right now I do get a little bit of twin flame push pull with my twin flame, and our energetic push pull is happening completely on the 5D level and in the sixth sense level via telepathy and via sixth sense things. But when that is happening with us, with me and my twin flame, the love is always there. I never doubt his love for me, or very rarely I do get insecure with this guy as well, because this guy is also much more handsome than me. And again, some insecurity based issues are cropping up with the twin flame as well. But my whole experience and journey with my false twin and some other soulmates that I met along the way as I was growing up in my 20s and 30s, all of them have prepared for me in a way to deal with the push pull and insecurities and other things that I'll be facing as I date my twin flame. Because for dating him and being a good life partner with him or for him, I had to go through those troublesome journeys and experiences with the karmics and catalysts and twin flames and false twin flames and soulmates of the past. And that is why I consider like the first boyfriend as my false twin and soulmate, because he gave me a lot of hard time. He pushed all my buttons in about insecurities, or he would make me feel the crappiest in many points of time when I was dating him. And I would cry for hours and hours, like, why does this guy not always have my back, or why is this guy not supporting me when I needed the support, or why does this guy leave me in the middle of the road sometimes, in the middle of nowhere, because those kind of experiences also showed up. So like he was like triggering abandonment issues, he was triggering not being there for a life partner based issues, he was triggering issues related to even women and men's sexual politics, because he would always like, you know, play all these mind games, and I'm not that kind of a person who likes mind games about sexual politics. So it used to completely irk me and frustrate me, and I'm also a very fair individual in some sense. So for me it was like, if you do want to play mind games with a woman, find a woman who enjoys these things. Or if you want to play sexual based whatever dynamics that he enjoys in a relationship, which I was not enjoying, again for me it was like, you need to find a woman with whom you can be this way, who's at equal level as you, who wants to pursue these kind of things in a relationship. I didn't want to pursue any of those kind of relationships. I wanted a straightforward, a balanced relationship, compatible relationship, a relationship where we could function together as, you know, a team, where we were thinking towards going in the same life path and life direction. And whereas with the false twin, those things were not happening, even though we were trying for many years. And even though we were kept in a place, we were living in US, we were in a state where we didn't really have that many friends. Both of us were friendless. So we ended up being each other's friends also for a few years. I used to consider him my best friend for a few years as well. And despite all that, even though he was my only friend for a few years, he was the only connection with whom I had some social interaction daily or monthly, Despite all that, we were just not right for each other, and that's why we ended up being also toxic towards each other, and that's why we would fight and break up and not see each other for a while, because our expectations and our needs and wants and desires were just not matching with each other. But even though all these things were going on, didn't we did love each other, we did care for each other, we did end up helping each other also in some ways. And every time I broke off from him, I started contemplating. I was going through heartbreak, I was going through pain, I was going through rejection, I was feeling insecure and everything. But every time I broke off, I learned something new about myself. I learned something new about what is the ideal relationship I want. I started writing down in a book and diary, like, these are the expectations I want from my ideal relationship. This is how I want my ideal life to look like. I started reading books about love because I was always into wanting a ideal love based relationship. So I used to watch also a lot of romantic movies, read also a lot of romantic stories, believe also in magic because I used to read even magic based stories. And I also used to read spirituality based and manifestation based books about relationships and other things. So because I was reading all that, I was doing so in the time of when I'm not fighting with him, when he's not fighting with me, he's busy dating some other girl or just, pursuing his professional life or whatever. I started focusing on myself. I started focusing on my professional life. I started focusing on my physical health. Like, if he has triggered me that I don't look as hot as the other girls he wants to date, and let me try to make myself look more beautiful than I was before. I was like in my early 20s, mid 20s, I was like a 78 kgs woman. And that was, for my height, it was my ideal weight should have been around 50 to 60 kgs. So I was like almost 10-20 kgs higher in weight. I was overweight to obese at that point of time. So I started going and working out in the gym. I started working out to make myself look beautiful and just healthy and fitter. I started eating better food in my home. My mom had died a long time back, so I didn't have like parents who were monitoring what I eat, what I do. So I was eating whatever crap I could find when living in US. So I started focusing on balanced meals, better nutrition, better health, and not just physical better health as well as mental and spiritual. Because when you are with a in a toxic relationship with anyone, be it your twin flame, be it your false twin, be it your soulmate, be it your karmics, if you're not feeling happy in your life, if you're not feeling inner joy, if you're feeling depressed all the time, if you're feeling anxious all the time, if you're feeling worried all the time, if you're not able to progress your relationship to a better level than it could be at, then all these are red flags and indicators that you are in a bad relationship. You are in a relationship that isn't for your greatest good. The relationship can teach you about getting to your greatest good path. But if you consistently start living in a toxic paradigm with someone, then all you're setting yourself up to do is having a toxic life. And that is your choice. That is where human free will comes into picture. That is what God allows us to do, to have the free will, to have the life we choose. So if in your life you feel, oh, this is the guy I love and I cannot live without him, and it doesn't matter how cruel he is towards me, that is your personal choice. And there are many women who go through this kind of abusive relationship patterns, because I did have some abusive relationship patterns at that time when I was going through the relationship. When I used to cry all the time because I used to feel like he's abusing me physically, verbally. No, physically, he didn't do it. Like, it started towards the end of the relationship. It went into a physical zone. But I had a physical abusive relationship background from my parents' dynamics. So I had seen how my parents' relationship had escalated from verbal abuse to physical abuse over the years of their marriage. So because I had seen that, I knew the red flags of what is physical abuse can do to you as an individual. So I didn't wait for it to escalate into physical abuse. When it was just in the borderline phase of like he used to bang things around me, or he had once pulled out a knife in front of me, like because he was very emotionally disturbed and he wanted to cut himself. So those things scared me, like, why are you so emotionally reacting to something we are discussing or fighting about, that you have to pull out a knife or you have to bang a chair or bang a door? So all these were indicators of violence, latent violence inside him. He had anger in him, I had anger in him. We were both very angry 20-year-olds, because we had had very bad childhood. That I could understand, that he had a bad childhood, and I definitely knew why I had the anger in me, because I had a bad childhood when bad upbringing from my parents, where they weren't like the best parents, but they weren't the worst parents either. But there was anger because of whatever things I went through in my childhood days. So that's why I was expecting better in a relationship. I didn't wish for a repeat of my parents' dynamics. I wished for a better living condition than my parents. And I also wished for a simpler lifestyle. This guy was wishing for all kinds of sexier lifestyle. I don't know what he was wishing for, but I could understand, like, my ordinary dream of wanting to just have an ordinary life with a few kids and a husband was not enough for him. He wanted more in his life. So because it wasn't enough for him, also there was a problem. So we were, that way very divergent in our perspectives and wishes and desires and goals in our 20s, that were not matching up to each other. So that's why the fights were like based on these things and difference of opinions. And then there was a little bit of misogyny also going on. There's a bit of me being a strong personality. I'm very strong, like in a way that most of the time I will acquiesce to whatever wishes someone else is saying and doing. But I have my strong boundaries as well. So if my boundaries are breached, like, I was very strong and sure that in my early 20s I do not want to have sex with anyone. I do not want to get pregnant in the middle of my studies, and when I am, like, trying to establish my career. At that point, I didn't wish to have a pregnancy, I didn't wish to have a child, and I didn't wish to have sex. That's why, because I wanted to make sure that before having sex, first of all, I wanted to make sure before having sex with a guy that he also wants the same thing as me in a relationship, that he also respects me and loves me the same way as I respect and love him. And that part I always felt was missing from his end. I knew he desired me, I knew I desired him, I knew he was attracted to me, I knew I was attracted to him, I knew I cared for him deeply. But for some reason, even though he cared for me, I didn't feel his care for me was a deeper level care. I felt his care for me was same as the care he would show any other women that were friends with him. It was nothing exceptional. Like, he would, if I call him and ask him to help me, like, say, go to the airport, he would go and do that to another woman as well. So there was nothing exceptional in the care he was showing towards me. And I don't know, I was very strong about this, that whoever, maybe it was a very idealistic way of looking at life, but if someone has to become your spouse, they have to prioritize you over other people. And if someone has to be your long-term partner, even if they don't become your spouse, you want to live in a living relationship with them for a long term, again, then they should prioritize you in some aspects than other people. That is the perspective I held. And I think I would still love to hold that same perspective even now with any guy I date or any guy I marry. Then because that is my way of looking at things, that you are going to become my priority. So if I don't become your priority, and if your job and your family and your other things in life and your wishes and desires are more of a priority, that is fine too. No one is saying that a guy shouldn't have these expectations, but that just means they're just not the same. They're just not meant to be with me, right? So this is how I felt about the whole relationship as it was developing, as it was progressing, as it was getting into very difficult zones, because of the differences in our perspectives and nature. And then the reason why it was a false twin but a very educational experience and life learning experience, was because I learned about boundaries. I learned about how, even if you love someone, sometimes it's better to move away from people who might not be good for your emotional or uh, inner internal happiness. Because I definitely got more happier after, after a few years of leaving him. Initial few years of leaving him was not easy, because it's never easy to leave someone whom you have cared for very deeply. It's very difficult, it's very challenging. You will miss them, you want to go to back to them again and again. But even though you will miss them, and even though you might wish to go back to them again and again, self love, self care, self respect means that you have to understand your own soul first. And if someone is not meeting your soul needs, if you are not meeting your soul needs, and if you're failing your soul, that's when you end up going back again and again to a false relationship or a karmic or a soulmate who is not the right fit for you. So, when I realized those things over time, because every time we were breaking up, I was realizing something new, something new, something new about myself and our journey and our dynamics. And as I started learning more and more and more, I slowly started detaching from this guy. And as I slowly started detaching, he is the one who started getting attached to me over time. So, our relationship did flip. So, what people talk about twin flames also, that your relationship will flip, that flip can happen in any relationship, be it a false twin, be it a karmic, be it a soulmate, be it a catalyst, be it your parents, anyone you interact with in your life. It is just the duality of life, that we can sometimes, whatever, say you were being the submissive one in a relationship, then the other opposite thing can happen, that instead of you becoming the submissive one, the other person will become the submissive one. If you were the abusive one, the other person might become the abusive one, and vice versa. So those things started happening, things started flipping. And because things started flipping, and even though when things, the flipping also happens for us to realize something. So for me, even though I was getting detached and he was getting attached, again the dynamic parameters didn't change. Again, the fights were still similar, the toxicity was still very similar, because ultimately the thing that the universe is trying to show us via these toxic fights or via the toxic differences of opinion was the fact that he and I were not meant to be together as life partners. We were meant to teach each other something, but not meant to help each other take the same journey in life. And because of that, ultimately I decided, let's end it. I ended it, he ended it. There were many times he ended it, there were many times I ended it. Then what happened was, I found out while, and we used to get back together also, we would end it, we would not meet each other for 3-4 months, and then again get back together. And when we got back together after 3-4 months or after 1-2 years, one fine day I find out that he's dating someone else, and not because he told me, but because we had a common telephone service for a while, and while we had a common phone plan together, I was getting the phone bills, and in that phone bill I saw that he's talking to someone for more than an hour, and with me he didn't even have the time to spend like 15-20 minutes in conversations. So that intrigued me, and I asked him, I called the number, and it turned out to be a girl's voice, and I asked him later on, who are you talking to? Is that someone you're dating? And he said yes. So see, if universe hadn't guided me, look at this bill, I would never have, because I was not the suspicious kind also. I never took his phone to look into his phone to see who is he talking to. I didn't do any of those things. Never was did I ever check up on him to see, like, when we are breaking off in those 3 months, what is he doing, who is he dating. I was not doing that. But though I was not doing and following up on what he's doing behind my back, I always kept him updated. Like, if I was not dating him, and at that time if my parents were sending me some proposal of boys, I would tell him, like, my parents have sent me this proposal of boys, I'm talking to this boy. So I expected that since I am honest with him, he would also be honest that if he wishes to date, because he had told me in the past that I want to date other people because you're not sleeping with me. And at that time, I had told him, yeah, sure, you can date someone else. Just let's not be boyfriend, girlfriend. Let's just be normal friends, instead of being boyfriend and girlfriend. So I was fine with him trying to find someone who will meet his needs of whatever he wished for in a relationship, as long as he would be open and honest with me about it. And he wasn't open and honest. Like, while I was telling him that I'm dating, or I wasn't dating, but I was just speaking to some guys on the phone when we had broken off and we weren't dating. In the same time frame when I was speaking to one, two guys, he was also dating a couple of girls, but he didn't give me, and he was physically dating them, like physically sleeping with them, taking them out for dinner. And with me, he would never even we would not even go out for good dinner dates or any other dates. We used to just go for some cheap movies, and cheap meaning dollar theater movies, not cheap thrills. We used to watch like really good movies, but it was a cheap date. We would just go for a movie, go and eat at a fast food restaurant, and go back home. So we weren't really dating also. We were just interacting, basically like two friends most of the time, and two friends with some benefits occasionally. Where again, because I was very strictly against premarital sex, we didn't go into that level, and that is what was frustrating him from his end. So these things also women in their 20s have to face. Women from India have to face, probably because of our Indian culture. We also have these belief systems about sex and sexuality and sensuality. So I had a lot of belief systems, but I was also very strong. Like, I didn't wish for anyone to be with me if they were not like into me as much as I was into them. So that happened, and eventually, with this push pull, push pull, push pull, and all the time insults, I and then when I finally figured out he's dating someone else and didn't even respect me enough to keep me on the same page as him, while I had kept him on the same page as me, that completely was a deal breaker. And then I stopped dating him, and I never went looked back after that, because for me that was the deal breaker. Like, if you can't even be honest with me, then what is there? If someone is not honest with you, if someone is going and dating and sleeping with someone else, if someone is not even willing to tell you that they love you, if someone is telling you that they will marry you, but after a few years there's no mention of marriage, or if someone is taking you for granted, like coming and visiting you when they wish to visit you, but otherwise, making no plans about ever hanging out together or having a good, compatible, meaningful life together. All these are red flags to show what is the level of care they are capable of giving to you. And after a few years of all these, I realized that this is never going in a direction in which either of us would be happy. And that's why it ended. We did try to reconcile again a couple of years later because of some friends, I guess. And maybe because both of us were lonely again and not finding anyone compatible. Because he was my most strong and most powerful, deep connection. So I tried to get back to him one time after this even cheating. But there were a lot of resentments in my soul and in my body about the cheating, about him never asking forgiveness for any of the wrong things that had happened in our relationship. And I just couldn't behave nicely with him. So that was also another red flag for me, that if I am not even capable of having a nice relationship with someone, then also it's not fair to be with them. And that's why it never progressed after that. And it's not that I had a very gala grand time having better relationships or anything after that. I did have some good experiences, some bad experiences even after that. But because he played a major role in my mid 20s, the nastiness of the relationship helped me grow as a woman, helped me grow in finding out what I want from my life, what will bring me peace in my life, what will bring me joy in my life, what I can do to bring peace and joy in my life. and it helped me learn different spiritual techniques, different manifestation techniques for different sorts of things, some related to work, some related to personal life. So sometimes, because he was my false twin and soulmate, and if any one of you have ever read Neil Donald Walsh's story or his teachings on Mind Valley or other, I don't know where else he teaches, but his teachings do tell this, that every soul we meet has come on this earth to teach us something and to help us learn something that we came to learn when we were born on this earth. So the false twin experiences are also meant to help you grow, and they are also meant to help you learn something about yourself, and they are also meant to teach you something about you. So don't get confused about who is your false twin or who is your twin flame. Even if you are getting confused, remember that eventually God, if you ask God the right questions, the answers will come to you, and you will figure out who is your false twin and who is your twin flame. Why is someone your false twin? Why is someone your twin flame? And what is the difference and discernment of the ways in which they will both help you grow, because every relationship will help you grow. Even the worst relationship possible, the worst karmic patterns possible, help a human being grow in life. But the level of growth that happens to us is partly dependent on us and partly dependent on how we allow God and the universe to co-create a life direction for us. And if I hadn't stopped dating my false twin, I would not have eventually met other people who gave me some more glimpses about things that I needed to learn to become a better individual. And if I hadn't had any of those experiences with any of those exes, or even like, brief chats with guys online, none of them would have then led me into understanding myself more and understanding my life purpose more. And if none of that had happened, I would never have even opened the door towards finding who my twin flame is. Because then I would not have been ready only to be a divine feminine, ready only to be someone who can take up the kind of path that you have to travel as a twin flame couple. So, either as a couple or as just a divine feminine traveling the path of a divine feminine, or divine masculine traveling the path of a divine masculine, because we have both masculine and feminine energies. And the part of twin flame journey is also in learning how to balance our masculine and feminine energies inside of us first. When you have done that, that is when and when you, while you are doing that, your divine counterpart is also going through some parallel experiences. And for some twin flame couples, those parallel experiences will be happening in the 3D together. Like there could be some twin flames who are married to each other and it's happening parallelly to them. There could be some twin flame couples who are not married to each other but might have dated each other in the past. And there could be some twin flame couples who are just not aware that they are twin flames and who will not become aware they are twin flames until they are ready to be aware about it, and until the divine deems it necessary that these twin flames start getting awareness of each other. So everything is a creation of the universe. We have come only as a result of our creator on this earth, and part of our journey is traveled by us and created by us, but part of it is also created with the divine in mind. And because divine does guide us, it's just that some of us understand those guidances and understand the red flags, understand the good things and the bad things as we are going through our life, and some of us are unawakened and don't understand it as deeply. So, if you want to understand this journey deeply, and if you have any further questions about what I commented on this long post, drop a comment, and I would love to explain further some of the other journeys and experiences that I've had in my life. And I would love to help people answer any doubts and confusions that might happen in their life as they are traveling through life and wondering if they have met a false twin or a twin flame, or if they're just looking for some guidance in life. So drop me a comment. Thank you. Take care.